What happens when you boil water in space? What happens when you try to boil water in space? In a place with no gravity and extreme temperatures, water behaves in ways you've probably never seen before. Let's explore this fascinating question and discover why boiling water in space is anything but ordinary. Welcome to Insight Academy, where we unravel some of the most curious scientific questions. Today, we're tackling a unique topic: what happens when you boil water in space? On Earth, boiling water seems simple, but in the microgravity of space, water acts very differently. Stick with us as we break down this unusual phenomenon. 1. The basics of boiling water on Earth. To understand what happens in space, let's first talk about boiling water on Earth. Boiling occurs when the water reaches a certain temperature, usually 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit at sea level. At this point, the liquid water turns into steam, as the heat provides enough energy for the water molecules to break free and escape into the air. But here's the catch: this process depends on gravity to help the steam rise away from the water. 2. Microgravity in space. In space, astronauts experience microgravity, which means gravity is so weak that objects and liquids float. This is different from what we experience on Earth. So, in a spacecraft or space station, water doesn't behave the same way. It doesn't settle at the bottom of containers, and it doesn't flow like it would on Earth. Instead, water forms spherical blobs and floats freely around. 3. Boiling water in space. So, what happens when you try to boil water in space? Without gravity pulling the steam away from the water, the process is quite different. The water itself can heat up just fine, but instead of boiling the way we're used to, the liquid begins to form a spherical bubble of water, which doesn't rise or dissipate as steam. The heat energy from the water can't escape as easily either, because the vapor has nowhere to go. In fact, water in space doesn't have the same evaporation process. Instead, it will either stay in its spherical form or slowly evaporate as it's heated, but the absence of gravity keeps it from behaving like typical boiling water. 4. The role of pressure in space. Another important factor when boiling water in space is pressure. On Earth, air pressure plays a huge role in the boiling process. In space, where there's very little pressure, water's boiling point actually drops. This means water can boil at much lower temperatures than on Earth, but only if there's enough heat applied to overcome the lower pressure. If you were to boil water outside a spacecraft, it would vaporize instantly due to the lack of atmospheric pressure. 5. How astronauts handle boiling water in space. Astronauts in space use special equipment to manage water, including boiling it for cooking or cleaning. They have specialized containers with pressure-controlled systems to boil water safely. These containers ensure that the water stays in its liquid form or turns into steam within a sealed environment, preventing the problems that would arise from the lack of gravity. On the International Space Station, ISS, astronauts use specially designed devices for boiling water and cooking food, such as space stoves and sealed containers for hydration. Without gravity, these innovations help ensure everything functions smoothly. 6. Why boiling water in space is important. While it may seem like a small detail, the way water behaves in space has a big impact on how astronauts live and work in space. Understanding the properties of water in microgravity helps NASA and other space agencies design the necessary equipment for daily life in space, from cooking and drinking to studying fluid dynamics in space. So, what happens when you boil water in space? Without gravity to help steam rise and with lower pressure, water boils very differently. It forms spherical blobs, and heat energy doesn't escape as easily. Astronauts rely on specialized equipment to manage this unique behavior of water in space. Though it may seem like a small thing, the way water behaves in space plays a key role in space exploration. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed learning about this fascinating aspect of space science, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos breaking down the mysteries of the universe. Have any questions about life in space or other scientific wonders? Drop them in the comments below. We'd love to answer them in future videos.